It's the Trash Player League. Let's get it.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? What's going on? Welcome to a new season of fantasy football brought to you by the boys at the Eye Test. This used to be the Trash Player League. Now things have changed, teams have changed, and this is now the winner takes all league. So,
It
welcome.
real, yeah, welcome and winner takes all. I think you guys understand what that means. $100 buy-in, winner takes all. Simple as that.
It's very simple. $100 buy-in, winner takes all, and $1,000 is on the line. And it seems
No,
like,
no, no, no. 1,200 is on the
excuse
line. We
me,
got 12
apologize.
teams this
Last
year.
year it was a
12.
$1,000 because it was only 10 teams. Charles didn't play last year, and somebody else didn't play last year, so it was only 10 teams. This year we are back to 12, and we have a new owner. Um, and we will get into that. This is now the winner takes all league. Things have changed around here, so new look, but $1,200 is on the line, man. So it seems like everybody showed up to get this 1,200. We'll see what actually happens though. But like I said, first we're going to start off by welcoming the new owner to the league and welcoming an old owner. Welcome back, Charles. Um, you've been missed. Is
Mhm.
welcome back to the league. Nice to see you again. And I believe Rodney didn't participate last year too,
No,
right?
no,
That
it
was
was Ronald Peak.
no Ronald Peak is new.
Yeah.
Rodney, there was
Oh,
somebody else that
Rodney.
did.
Rodney. I could remember. Maybe it was Rodney.
If I got that wrong, I apologize, but I believe it was Rodney that didn't participate last year. Welcome back as well, and welcome my new owner, Ronald Peak. Welcome to the league, friend. Um, an old owner has been removed from the league. He has been removed for Jim Irsay like antics. He was drunk while driving, and also slovenly drunk on the job. He did not show up to his appointed post of on draft day. It was kind of wild. We're talking about an hour before the draft, and this dude calls up like, "I'm drunk. That ain't going to happen, friend." Like that's crazy stuff, right?
I'm just trying to understand what's the difference between this year and last year and any other year before. Because if I'm not mistaken, he's drunk at the draft every year. So I don't understand why that. What was it? It's a different level of drunkenness. It's a different, like it was a deeper drunken state. I don't know what was going on, but it seems as though he was a functioning alcoholic, but then now he's not functioning anymore. So this man is not in the league on his own volition. He just said, "Look, man, we keep it 100. I'm lit."
I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to make it, Doug. That ain't going to happen. I'm driving.
That's
I'm
it.
lit and I'm driving. I was like, I don't think you're supposed to do that, friend.
Yeah.
I don't think
So
that's how that's supposed to work.
yeah,
I don't think
yeah. So
like
that's a wild thing. That's a wild way to kind of start it, man. We were scrambling in the 25th hour trying to figure out how we're going to get somebody to step in. So shout out to Ronald Peak for stepping up, man, and taking that last spot for us.
yeah, I do know that Ronald Pete was supposed to be in years before, but he dropped out due to some other concern or whatever. But he finally made it into the league. He said that he's been trying to get into this league for 3 years, and I hope that we live up to the hype that of what he's been wanting. But anyway, his team name is Peak of the Mountain. I actually like that team name. It's pretty good in my opinion. It's a nice play on words off of his name. We will see if he actually makes it to the peak of the mountain in this
Well,
league.
yeah, maybe it is a peak of the mountain. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's not Mount Everest. Maybe it's not Mount Fuji. You know what I'm saying? Maybe
Uh,
maybe it's the Appalachian Mountains, Mark. I don't know.
so you saying maybe his peak is smaller than some other mountains that's out there.
Yeah, just because you're at the top of a mountain doesn't mean that you're at the top of the mountain, Mark. That's all I'm saying.
I got you. Shots fired early. Welcome
Yeah.
to the league, friend. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and get started and started right into these draft rankings. And starting right off the back, I do want to bring up this one thing. This draft was tight, man. This draft, everybody did a good job. Applaud yourselves for the job that you did in drafting, because fantasy pros, they have no idea what's going on. They don't know how to rank us. They don't know what's happening. We haven't played a single game yet, and not much has changed. Like, some people have traded. I mean, they added a player and removed one of their bottom players, but nothing much has changed. And yet, as you're going to see here, Fantasy Pros has everyone very tight. Um, currently, they currently they have it as VA 49ers as the number one team in the league, and 750 Dead Ops as the number two. On the bottom of the league, they have Playoff Rick and Blessed by the Fantasy Gods. Now, one thing I will tell you is that yesterday in our botched episode, this was different. They had, I believe, Big Trust as number one.
Yep.
And and before that, they had a different team change as well. And yesterday they also had only one team being 8-6. So this thing is freaking out. It doesn't know what to do. And as you can see, most of the teams in the middle, 7-7. The one thing that hasn't changed though, every single time this loads up, Blessed by the Fantasy Guides is in number 12. Um, so one thing Fantasy Pros is saying is we Blessed by the Fantasy Guys is definitely going to end last, no matter what. That's what they're saying. We will see if that's how we have. So, Sean, you have anything to say about this before we go ahead and get into rankings?
I know we're going to get into this. You know what? Now, I have a comment about the Blessed by the Fantasy Gods, but I'll save that for when we get into it. I'll save it.
All right, no worries at all. So all right, I'm going to bring up the next screen here. All right, guys. Bring this down. All right. So as you can see here, we brought up the draft board. The way this is going to go here, we're going to go ahead and talk about. We are going to go ahead and give out our rankings. Sean will go first, and it will be no context given. He is just going to flat out give his rankings, and then I will give mine, and from there we will explain how we feel, how we got to where we got to these rankings. All right, so Sean, go ahead.
All right, started from the bottom. Fantasy Pros, me and Fantasy Pros, we got something in common. All right, we got Blessed by the Fantasy Gods at 12. I have myself, VA 49er, at 11. Team Phone M Grave at number 10. I have Team Roll Tide at number 9. I have Hertz Locker at number 8. Big Trust at number 7. 750 Dead Ops at 6. Straws Gang at 5. I have Condomless Poppy at 4. Lombardicus Prime at 3. Playoff Rick at 2. And Peak of the Mountain at 1.
All right, so there you have it, folks. There goes Sean's ranking right there. And as you can see, it's already different then Fantasy Pros has it. Now I'm going to go ahead and give mine. Um, just like you, and just like Fantasy Pros, I also have Blessed by the Fantasy Guides at 12. So right there, we all agree. We are all lock in step right there with Blessed by the Fantasy Guides at 12. Uh, I have Straw Gang at 11. I have Rick Shaw. Excuse me. I have Vach Lombardi at 10. I have Rick Shaw at 9. Peak of the Mountain at 8. Them Grave at 7. Roll Tide at 6. Hertzlocker at 5. VA 49ers at 4. Big Trust at 3. Condomless Poppy at 2. And 750 Dead Ops at 1. So, our as you guys can see, we are vastly different here. So this will be interesting as we explain how we got here. All right. So um let's just start from the bottom. I mean, let's start with the one area where we all agree. Blessed by
Yeah,
the Fantasy Guides at 12. All right. I'm just going to go ahead and tell you right now the reason why I have Blessed by the Fantasy Guides at 12 um, is because of Cooper Cup. Cooper Cup, right off the bat, is why I bet Blessed by the Fantasy Guides is at 12. This draft happened after the news that he had re-injured his hamstring had came out. And yet, he still somehow ended up a first-round pick for this young lady. Um, that So we're talking about he already was dealing with the hamstring, and then we get the news that he has re-injured it, and she still drafts him at 1.
yeah.
And
Real quick, Mark. Real quick. Yeah, drafts him at 1. This is a 12-team league. This ain't no 10-team league, man. You can't. You got to hit on that first pick, and if your first pick may or may not be able to play off the bat, that's already a disadvantage. And then if you really consider the fact that he might or could end up on IR, which means he's going to be out for an extended period of time before he comes back, then that right there already is an issue. Like you knew that before.
Yes. Now my next issue with this team goes to Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry, I do believe that he's a second round pick. I just don't believe he's a second round pick this early. But if you like him, you like him. Go get your guys. I just don't agree with the pick because Derrick Henry is older. The offensive line is not great. And I feel as though there were better guys out there at this level. But like I said,
Real quick, Mark, as we go through this one, because we agree on this one and we both have her at the same spot, I just want to I'm just going to interject or every time you hit another player. So with the Derrick Henry thing, I just don't have any faith in him this season because of the Titans being ranked as the 32nd offensive line going into the season. They still have Ryan Tannehill as their quarterback. D-Hop is there, but we all know that it's Ryan Tannehill throwing the ball, and he didn't exactly do numbers with A.J. Brown there. I don't have any confidence to say that the passing game is going to open up the running game in this situation. Like you said, Derrick Henry is a late second round, maybe, but when you had guys like Josh Jacobs, Tony Pollard, Jahmyr Gibbs, all these guys, ETN still on the draft board, I would say I'd take all those guys over Derrick Henry.
Yeah, Garrett Wilson. Like, I mean, you don't like the reminder. This is PPR. You're not locked into having to take a running back at this position. So there was all types of guys available at this time. Beyond that, I'm not going to go through every guy. I'm just going to hit on points where it just made sense and what didn't. Like I said, for me, I like the Trevor Lawrence thing. Trevor Lawrence is on the rise. I think that's a fair spot to take him, given how the quarterbacks were coming off the board. I feel like this was a fair spot to go ahead and grab your guy if you're one of them. The pick that I truly like from her is Jahan Dotson. I like Jahan because Terry McLaurin, his injury status and how bad it actually is unknown. We don't know what's going on there, but we do know that Dotson is the healthy wide receiver on that team. And by things that we hearing, Sam Howell should be able to launch that thing. And we see, and from what we've seen in preseason, it looks like their passing game may be all right. Um, Another thing that I like is I like the Antonio Gibson Brian Robinson tandem here. You got both guys, so if one was to emerge over the other, you have both of them. You don't have to worry about which one is going to be. The only issue here with that is that if it's neither one of them, it's going to be tough making that choice all year. I've been through it myself. Uh,
Hmm.
and with Commanders players actually, Antonio Gibson being one of the players that was involved, and making that choice is difficult. So, but the fact that you have them both, kudos. I like it. Sean.
Yeah, I'm just gonna double down here. Really, just say the first two, the first two picks is what's really the reason why she's here at the bottom, because
Hmm.
I don't have confidence. Like you said, it's PPR. Derrick Henry is usually gets drafted at that spot or around that spot most years because of his ability to get touchdowns, essentially. You know what I mean? Because you
Hmm.
could say, okay, well, he might rush for 1,500 yards and all this stuff. That means nothing. That means nothing without the touchdowns. So because of the fact that he's usually getting those yardage plus, you're getting 15 touchdowns out of him. That's usually the case. But I don't know if this is a 15 touchdown year for him. But
Right.
but with that said, out of everything else in the roster, I agree with what you were saying about the running back situation. It's tough. Um, your Her flex is what I'm looking at, and her flex is where she's going to suffer. Um, Maybe Ayuk has the same chemistry with Brock Purdy, but then that's a question mark. Brock Purdy coming off of surgery, and then you have either, and if you're talking about throwing a running back in that position, you're talking about having Brian Robinson or Gibson in that flex position, and that is not a situation that you want to be in as far as having a solid guy in the flex. So that's it.
All right. So yeah, like I said, a last point that I want to make here. Now that we talked about this, I just thought about this. I want to double down that Derrick Henry shouldn't have been your choice here, especially if you were taking the gamble of Cooper Cup being
Yes.
your number one. Because if you're taking the gamble of Cooper Cup being your number one in the PPR league, and you have the understanding that this is an injury that may be a problem later, you should have went back to back wide receivers, because that way you kind of cover yourself with two guys that with two fairly elite guys
Yeah.
at the receiver position.
Uh,
So
did you want to look at her bench? Did you have anything to say about her bench?
no, no,
Okay.
no.
Nothing
It
notable.
is what it is.
Gotcha. Okay.
So we are now getting into the first area where we differ, and that is Nick Chubb. I mean, excuse me, Straw Gang, Troy Straw Gang. I have them at 11. You have them at 5.
Yes.
I have I have Straw Gang here largely because I'm not feeling the receivers. That is my reasoning for Straw Gang being at 11. Again, this is a PPR, and your best receiver is Devontae Adams, who has a shaky um, QB situation. I do believe that the volume will still be there. The receptions may still be there. But what won't be there is the yardage and the touchdowns. And that's going to highly affect Devontae Adams. And the fact of the matter is, the next guy that you have is Devonta Smith, who is a number 2 on the roster. Um, I think there is a stronger ad there available in Chris Olave or Amari Cooper if you made that choice of Devontae Adams. And beyond that, when especially when you go ahead and get into your bench receivers, Jerry Judy is hurt right now. Kadarius Toney constantly hurt. He may be healthy right now, but that's only going to last a quarter of gameplay. According to his history, that will last a quarter of a game, and then he will be back to injury.
That's crazy. Not a quarter of a season, dog. A quarter of a game. That's crazy.
Yeah, I'm not talking
That's
shit.
what his
That
history
is
says.
true to life. That is true to life. I don't think I've ever seen him last more than a quarter in a game.
Yeah.
So that so Kadarius Toney, not confidence building. And then you have long in the tooth Adam Thielen, who probably is the best quarterback on that team, but I mean best wide receiver on that team, but he has a rookie quarterback. He has an undersized rookie quarterback. He's not the biggest receiver, and he is old.
Yeah. Like, I'll be honest. Adam Thielen wouldn't be on my bench. He wouldn't even be on my team. So, so real quick.
So explain why he's at 5.
Because I love Nick Chubb, because he's finally there in Cleveland without Kareem Hunt, without anybody threatening, not even threatening. He's literally only going to have somebody spell him instead of having somebody get 15 touches behind him. And Nick Chubb over the years has been doing a lot more in the passing game. So I expect for his numbers to be similar on the ground, but I expect his numbers to go up significantly through the air, which means maybe you start to see him have 5 to 6 catch games, which then to me it puts him in that category of guys that you could say are going to go out there and catch the ball as well as run, and we already know what he does on the ground. So I'm just predicting him to have be one of the most consistent backs again, but also be doing it through the air. So that is a big deal. Devontae Adams, he's going to be a high floor guy. I agree with you there. The yards, the big plays the big plays in the big games that you would get from Devontae Adams in fantasy, where you know you're down and out, you got him left, and this man goes off for 38 points. I don't think that's happening anymore. So you lose your high ceiling there. But the high floor is there. Devontae Smith, I feel like his floor is high enough. Once again, you don't have the boom, but his floor is high enough. Joe Mixon, another guy who his floor should be high. Once again, not a high ceiling though. Goddard, I think this is where we disagreed. I personally think he will still be, even though he won't be considered to be in the upper echelon of tight ends, he's still going to be in that second tier of tight ends that's going to be a lot better than the tier below. So just off of touchdowns, not just off of touchdowns, but just off of the usage that he'll get, even though it's still not going to be enough to be desirable. And it's not like you have Kittle or Hawkinson or anything like that, but I think it's good enough. So I look at that, and then when it comes down to his flex, which a lot of people's flexes are bad or not great. If he has Dalvin Cook in his flex, then I see that as being a great situation.
Well, so we don't know what that situation is going to be.
We don't know, but, and I understand if you look at those things and say, you know what, that ain't solid enough. Hey, you have no boom to your lineup, which might be true. The only boom that you might get out of this lineup is Aaron Rodgers, and once again, that's another high floor. I don't know if there's anybody that has as many high floor guys as Straw's gang, and I think that's why I have him up in the spot that he's at. I don't think he can, but I don't think, Mark, that he can finish higher than 5 than where I have him.
I think, I question because I wonder if Aaron Rodgers was in his plan the entire time or what. Like, what was going on there? Or was Aaron Rodgers just the best available guy by the time it got to him? Because if Aaron Rodgers was in his plan the entire time, why not go Garrett Wilson instead of Devontae Adams? The one thing that I would say, though, Garrett Wilson went one pick after him, by the way. Um, One thing that I will say is that his Tyler Higbee pick is a lot better today than it was on draft day. Now that Cooper Kupp has officially been ruled out for week one, Tyler Higbee's his numbers should shoot through the roof. This may be somebody that he looks into starting in the flex position, because Tyler Higbee last year, in the absence of Cooper Kupp, became a bit of a target monster. We will see if he's able to repeat that this year. But moving on, we are now going into Botch Lombardi.
Number 10 for you, right?
I have Botch Lombardi at 10. You have him as high as 3. He is 10 for me. Hey, this may be a bit of hate on my part. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to pretend. I don't fuck with Cowboys, and it's a lot of them motherfuckers on this team.
Hey, look, Mark, I'm glad that you said it because I ain't want to have to call you out. I mean, I wouldn't even say call you out. I know you will call your Dallas Cowboys hate out every time, but I mean, let's be honest, Mark. This is definitely going to come off as hate, but I definitely still want to hear your explanation. So let's go ahead, man.
Well, here's the thing. Like I said, there's a lot of them motherfuckers on this team, but that's not why I have them here. I've had them here because this team doesn't inspire me. It doesn't make me feel great. One thing that I don't feel great about this team is his running backs. I only like one running back on this team. Is Saquon Barkley. Connor he's going to have the volume. He's going to have the opportunity, but because they are starting a quarterback that they just got, and they don't have anything else on the roster really. Mm-hmm. I see everybody keying in on a guy like James Conner, who's not very dynamic. Like, he's not a very dynamic guy. So Conner doesn't inspire me to think that he's going to do a whole lot. I see him getting volume to the tune of 3 yards a carry, or maybe 3.5 yards a carry. Like, gotcha. that doesn't impress me much. You know what I'm saying? Like, shout out to Shanae O'Connor. You know what I mean? Excuse me. But anyway, then you got Javonte Williams. I don't know. I'm not a big guy on him either. So there's that. Beyond that, I think his bench is all right. You know what I mean? Like, his bench is pretty cool. But that's it. It's just cool. It's an adequate bench, in my opinion. But go ahead.
Like, even here, you explain it. Like, I'm not even gonna lie. I think we just fundamentally disagree on a lot of these players. Mark,
tell me what you was like. Oh, this is the shit.
Number 1, CeeDee Lamb. Okay. Saquon Barkley.
I feel you. That's good.
Chris Olave. We saw what he did last year with Andy Dalton. I don't need to explain that one. I would like to believe that you think that Derek Carr is an upgrade at quarterback. From Andy Dalton. Those 3 right there, you're talking about high floor, high ceiling guys. Maybe Olave's ceiling isn't as high as those other 2, but those guys have high ceilings, high floors. Keenan Allen, his situation is just, as long as he can stay healthy, his floor might not be high, but he has a really good floor. And then, to me, like that right there, those top 4 picks right there are
I can't put Keenan Allen in that because I didn't want to bring it up, but Keenan Allen, like, he's older, and it seems like, and maybe the injury, the past was he was injury prone. He gave you like 2 seasons where He didn't really get injured, but now it may be creeping back up on him. And
Okay, maybe it is, and I'll give you that, Mark. I'm not even going to argue with you on that. James Conner, I will say my thoughts have changed about James Conner, Mark. First, I was like, okay, he's going to get the volume, pass catching downs, all that stuff. He's just going to get the volume. I mean, you could go and average 3 yards a carry. You could get 20 carries for 50 yards, but if you also get 5 catches for 23 yards, you're still talking about a 12-point game right there, Mark. So that's what I look at with James Conner. But at the same time, knowing that Josh Dobbs is now the starter, and knowing that the tanks are rolling in like a Master P album cover, you know what I'm saying? Like at this point, I don't think that their plan is to use him to the point to where he's going to be getting red zone touches. I don't think they plan on being in the red zone, Mark. So that has changed since then, since we originally did our assessments. But I still think he has the potential for a decent floor, even without the touchdowns. And then I am high on Javonte Williams. You are not. So I liked what I saw from him last year. I understand he's coming off of an ACL. But
it has nothing to do with his ability. It has to do with he's a running back coming off of ACL.
Yes, but usually running backs coming off of ACL, if they are going to recover and do well, it's going to happen in their younger years, and he's young enough to.
Yeah, when they come back and recover, it also takes them. It's not the season that they come back; it's the season after that.
I mean, unless your name is Adrian Peterson, but that's a different story. Then you come back and you run for 2,000 yards. But yes, I just have faith in him in that way. Like I said, we just disagree with that whole thing. Dak Prescott is another guy who I think that's the one guy on the
leader last year.
The high floor.
Interception leader.
We know what his floor could be, Mark. So.
Interception leader last year.
But Cowboys their defense gets turnovers. They added Stephon Gilmore, which might actually make Trevon Diggs a better defensive back. I don't know. I just feel like everything else, like even with the weak spots on his roster, those first 4 picks to me make up for it.
Okay. Sure. Next up, Rickshaw. You have him at 2. And I have him at 9. Rickshaw, I may not even agree with where I have Rickshaw here. I like this roster. I like it a lot. This is where it got really tough to grade for me. You got Austin Eckler, who I like, but Rick brought up a point in himself when interviewed about what he felt was his strengths and everything like that about his team. And surprisingly, when asked what did he feel the most shaky about, it was his number 1 running back. And he said Austin Eckler, and he said simply because the amount of production that he was able to do the last 2 years, it's a lot to ask for that for a 3rd year in a row. And that's I can't argue with that. You know what I mean? Like that.
To add to that, Mark, the biggest thing about last year is he didn't start out that way in the beginning of the season, but because every single wide receiver on that team got hurt at one point, and you just had Palmer out there by himself, they had to utilize him heavily in the passing game, Mark. I don't know if you realize, but during that stretch, he was getting 10 to 13 targets a game. So, I agree. You can't expect him to give you that level of production in 3 years in a row.
Right. So that weighed heavily into my decision of where he ended up. But outside of that, man, I don't really have anything that I'm like, ooh, I don't like this. I don't like that. I like this team. It is what it is. Like, he has an excellent 4th receiver, Deontay Johnson. I don't like Deontay Johnson as a number 2. I don't like him necessarily as a number 3, but as a 4th receiver, his volume is undeniable. He gets the receptions. And so that is an excellent guy to have to be able to switch in and out of. You know what I'm saying? Like I like that. Like I said, this was tough to grade for me. You can go ahead with your point as to why you had him as high as number 2.
I just look at it is once Alvin Kamara is back, because I mean, maybe I should have knocked him down a couple of spots for that, but excuse me, once Alvin Kamara is back, I'm very high on Khalil Herbert to the point to where once Kamara's back, I think that 1-2 punch is really good, considering that they're his second and third running backs. So while Kamara's gone, having Herbert there paired with Austin Eckler, to me, he's not going to see any loss or any difference in performance and production. Like he's still gonna have 2 solid running backs. So like I said, having Kamara come back, then he's gonna have 3 solid running backs, which a lot of these teams in our league can't say. Then you look at Garrett Wilson, you look at Herbert. I think that's great for starting quarterback, starting wide receiver. DJ Moore, I'm just high on DJ Moore, and I like the way that the Bears are using him.
I love DJ Moore, and I also love the add of DJ Moore simply from the hate standpoint of I'm not going to allow Ford on the grave to get him.
The hate standpoint, you got to factor that in. But Lockett is, as much as I would like to be down on him, he's his third receiver. And because like I said, I believe because he has Kamara and Herbert, he'll be one of the few people in our league that has the option of saying, do I go with a running back in my flex this week, or do I go with the wide receiver? So I just think that it's a well fleshed out starting lineup, and he does have some options here. So I think I can't really point to any like holes in his lineup that he's going to have on a week-to-week basis.
Right, man. Like this lineup is great in my opinion, man. I love what's going on here. But moving on from that, we now are going into team number 8 for me and team number 1 for you. This one, I feel as though you are effing wilding. Like you are tripping, bro. Like, what are we talking about here? You're gonna have to explain this to me because you have them at number 1. I'm gonna let you go first on this one, Frank.
Okay, I will go first. And I'm gonna honestly tell you, after looking at it, maybe it was a little bit ambitious to put him at a number 1 spot. But then when I look at it again, I understand what I was thinking at the time. I look at Tyreek Hill and Waddle. I think they're going to be the most explosive, possibly the highest scoring wide receiver tandem in fantasy football. Just because, even with Cincinnati, Tyler Boyd gets some action in there. You know what I mean? So it's just going to be Waddle and Hill in Miami, okay? That tandem is going to be the leading wide receiver tandem when it comes to yardage, catches, and touchdowns. So I love that pairing of Hill and Waddle. Joe Burrow, I feel like, is going to finish in the top 4 of quarterbacks. And I think he's going to be in that upper echelon where he's not going to be too far off from the production that Pat Mahomes gives him. So I like those 3. Those are 3 heavy hitters right there. Aaron Jones, I think he's going to get higher usage than he's ever seen, just based off of the fact that Love is going to be the quarterback and Aaron Rodgers ain't there to try to throw the ball every down. I think Aaron Jones is going to be he's going to give you the production that people think or people believe that Bijan Robinson is going to give you. So to be able to get him there was nice. And then Dobbins, I'm not so high on. I give you that. I don't like running backs on the Ravens, but to have Evan Ingram, who seemed decent last year, that is going to be a passing offense. Even with the running back, everybody's getting the ball in Jacksonville, it seemed like towards the end of the year. I still like him as a tight end at that spot. You got Justin Tucker, Baltimore Ravens defense. I think the Baltimore Ravens defense is going to be a lot better than they have been in the past, just because of how productive the offense is going to be. And then, but the biggest reason why, even with the J.K. Dobbins thing, and even if you say you don't really, Evan Ingram's middle of the road for you, I like Jameson Williams a lot. And I think that Jameson Williams will be the clear number 2 to Amon-Ra St. Brown with the Lions. And if I believe what I believe, which is that what's his name, Jared Goff is going to come out here and throw for almost 5,000 yards potentially, I feel like that Jameson Williams being that number 2 guy, he's drafted all the way down there. I think that he is going to give you better production than guys like D-Hop, that were drafted in the 4th round or whatever, 4th or 5th round. So Jameson Williams is like that key hinge point that makes me believe in this roster.
All right. So now that you're done with that soliloquy of nonsense, I'm going to go ahead and tell you exactly why I do not have this team as high as number 1. Yes, I like Tyreek Hill. Yes, I like Joe Burrow. Yes, I like Jalen Waddle. That's fantastic. His starters are great. I like Zay Flowers as a flex. Yes. Beyond that, no. Beyond that, his bench is not doing it for me. Like Rashad Penny, he is in a timeshare like I've never seen before. Like this is like super timeshare, and as far as Joe Burrow goes, as far as Russell Wilson goes, I do not believe Russell Wilson is going to, if something was to happen to Joe Burrow of a catastrophic nature, I do not think you're going to get anywhere near the level of production that Joe Burrow gave you. And next to that, you're right. Jameson Williams is a number 2, but he's a distant number 2. You know what I'm saying? Like it ain't like, oh, it's close. It's not Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. No, this is a distant number 2. So let's not play games here. This team is one injury. He's one injury away from, with one of his starters, to where this thing falls apart. Because if Tyreek Hill gets injured, there's nobody that's even coming close to that production.
And I can, and I can give you that, but that's also one of the reasons why I said, looking at it again, maybe I have him too high, but I give you that. And the man has 3 running backs on his roster with 3 tight ends on his roster. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with that, but
that's another thing. That's another thing. Evan Ingram, Calvin Ridley's there now. That volume's coming down.
Okay, I give you that. All right. Fair enough. So you might win this round. Go ahead.
Moving on from Peak of the Mountain, who was at 8. Yes, at 8. We now, excuse me, I apologize. I gave you Rickshaw before at 9, and I forgot that I switched him. Rickshaw should have been at 7.
Yeah,
that makes a lot more sense to me. Why now? I forgot I moved.
Which reminds me, number 9, you had Team Fonum.
Yes, I had Team Fonum Grave. So now we're gonna talk about who I actually had at 9. Team Fonum Grave. So Team Fonum Grave. Very easy here. I don't think this requires a lot of talking why he was at 9. Team Fonum Grave was at 9 because Christian, he has the running backs. He has Christian McCaffrey. He has Tony Pollard. He has Ramondre Stevenson. This is a PPR. These wide receivers are not good enough. This is not good enough. Your best wide receiver is D-Hop, who has Ryan Tannehill throwing to him. I'm not feeling it. And then beyond that, you got Chris Godwin and Mike Evans and George Pickens. I like them, but all three of them. I like all three of them. Quarterback situation is shaky. Is shaky. Like there's nothing great about this wide receiver situation, in my opinion. I get that these guys kept falling into your lap, and you just felt as though you had to take them. Hey, but sometimes, man, hey, listen here, Eve. Sometimes you just gotta ignore the fruit, baby. Sometimes you just gotta not take the fruit.
Hey, Mark, I'm just gonna get right into it, man. The wide receivers, these are just names, Mark, at this season.
And you had them at 10. So you and I both somewhat agreed here because you had Fordham Grave at 10 and I had him at 9.
I penalized him.
Rick Shaw, you should have been at 7.
Yeah, I penalized him more than you did, Mark, which is a surprise to me. But the way I look at this is you're relying, your season is dependent upon the performance of Baker Mayfield, Kenny Pickett, and Ryan Tannehill. That right there alone does not give me the confidence, enough confidence to believe in this team. Great, you have some of the best PPR running backs, but that don't mean nothing if you can't get that production from your wide receivers. The only thing that makes up for a lack of catches or a lack of yards is touchdowns, and I do not see any world where any of these guys surpass 10. I think 10 is the ceiling for maybe Mike Evans. D-Hop, I don't even think he's going to get 10. I think 10 is the ceiling for Mike Evans, and that's it, Mark. You know what? I don't want to waste any more time on this. This receiving core is going to be the death of him.
Right. I feel you. 100% feel you. So, moving on. Again, I apologize, Rick Shaw. You should have been at 7 in my book. Roll Tide, I have him at 6. You have him at 9. All right.
I do have him at 9. Go ahead. So,
Roll Tide is at, like I said, I have him as high as 6 for me. Reason being, the Travis Kelce, the reason why he's at 6, although the Travis Kelce pick is great, Travis Kelce is going to give you numbers no matter what if he's healthy and playing. It is also problematic to draft him at this position because here, when you draft Travis Kelce at number 2 pick overall, you are missing out on all these tier 1 receivers and running backs, and essentially you're relegating yourself down to getting a tier 3 guy at best. Especially I don't like it. I don't like it. Like his best receiver is Amari Cooper, and then beyond that you have Michael Pittman who is dealing with a young quarterback, no Jonathan Taylor as of right now, and there's only 3 wide receivers on the entire roster. Like, this team has issues. So Michael Pittman doesn't inspire the greatest of hopes. Christian Kirk is now dealing with as the same as Evan Ingram. He is now fighting for targets because Calvin Ridley has arrived.
Yes.
Gabe Davis, he was highly disappointing last year. Last year was supposed to be his breakout season. He had 93 targets. You know how many of those targets he actually caught? 48.
That's barely above 50%. That's like 51%.
Yeah, so that's not, these are not the numbers you want to hear, bro. And these are not the guys that you want to have on your roster. He has Sutton as well. And, hey, man, the rumor mill out there is that Sutton, he ain't got much left in the tank, or at least it appears to be based on the way that he played last year. Don't know why he played that way last year, but the way he played last year, it don't seem like he had much left. So that's why I have him at 6. You obviously probably feel the same way about these receivers, but you graded them more harshly than I did. So please go ahead.
Yeah, so I'll tell you about the harsh grade. I think that he saw Darius, saying receiver core, and he said, you know what, hold my beer. You know what I'm saying? That's what happened here, man. But the only difference is he at least has a clear, like a number one wide receiver that I have confidence in, Mark.
Right.
So he has Amari Cooper, but let me tell you something. I'm not taking Michael Pittman over. The only one I will take him over George Pickens for the Steelers, but that's it. I'm not taking him over any of those receivers that Darius has over there. So the Pittman thing is really horrible to me. The Gabe Davis is really horrible. I'm telling you, I'm counting that as he doesn't have those receivers. So when I look at that roster, I say he has Amari Cooper, Christian Kirk, and Cortland Sutton, right? And if you're telling me that's who you have as your number 2 wide receiver, and then you have Cortland Sutton in your flex or whatever the situation may be, then I have to look at your running backs. And it's great that you have Kelsey. It's great that you have Josh Allen. Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be sharing the rock. Madison at least is the number 1 guy. And then you have Jamal Williams, who's going to be the number 2 in the committee.
Well, he's going to be number 1 for at least 4 weeks. 4
weeks. What that going to get you? That's going to get you to the number 9 spot on my list. This is what it's going to get you, Mark. So he thinks that if he thinks that Josh Allen and Travis Kelce are going to carry him, he's got another thing coming, and that's basically why I have him at 9.
All right. So moving on from Roll Tide, who was at 6 for me and 9 for you, we are now at Hertzlocker, who for me was at, sorry, I apologize. Hertzlocker, who was at 5, and you have me at 8. I'm just going to
have you at 8, right?
I'm just going to go ahead and say, man, I like AJ Brown, bona fide number 1. Jalen Hurts, up until the injury, he was neck and neck with Patrick Mahomes on the season with fantasy production and runner-up for MVP in the actual NFL. And in this situation, I also have 2 bona fide number 1 running backs. I also managed to lock that down. I have Travis Etienne and Dameon Pierce. Dameon Pierce ain't fighting nobody. Nobody believes in Devin Singletary. So let's go ahead and get that out the way. And Travis Etienne, like, they got Tank Bigsby in the 3rd round, but guess what? He is also on my roster. So I am satisfied there with the handcuff. The wide receivers beyond AJ Brown, we're not truly understanding of what Christian Watson can be, but he is the number 1 receiver on his team. I can guarantee you that he is the number 1 guy, Odell Beckham, his best days may be behind him, but but that was a gamble that I feel as though he still has a lot in the tank. And to get Sky Moore this late, who is going to be a starter on his team, like, let me ask you, Sean, do you believe in MVS?
No, I never have. I don't even.
Okay, you don't believe in MVS? Cool. Do you, is Kadarius Toney going to stay healthy?
There is a 0% chance that he stays healthy, Mark.
Okay, so we're talking about Sky Moore possibly being the best wide receiver, the best WR on the Kansas City Chiefs, and he's on my roster.
Got you. Okay.
Cool.
I'll give you that. And
cool.
and now the question is, has he turned the corner as a wide receiver?
But we will find out. But he is also my 4th wide receiver. So
which is a good. It's not bad for a 4th wide receiver. Okay.
Yeah. And now moving on to my 5th wide receiver is Marvin Mims. Marvin Mims currently, like, the same situation. Jerry Jeudy's hurt. So Jerry Jeudy's hurt, and Cortland Sutton, people don't believe in.
Let me be very clear. It's not just Jerry Jeudy's hurt. Tim Patrick is out again for possibly, I think, for the season.
Yes.
Then you have KJ Hamler, which I think he has a nagging injury. So everybody's hurt except for Cortland Sutton and Marvin Mims.
Right. So somebody got to get it, and for him to be the second to last pick on my team, I like it.
Yeah, so I give you that. I give you that. I like the value that you've gotten from drafting these wide receivers at those spots. Value in the draft does not equal production on the field to me, and that's
why I have them at 5.
Yes. Okay. So now that's why for me you are at 8. Which, just to be clear, the gap between 5 and 8 on my list is not very big. So
now
where I ding you to where I have you lower, I would say is Kyle Pitts. I just don't know what that offense is going to be because of the quarterback situation. That's the biggest reason. I love all the weapons on the Falcons. I don't know what it's going to amount to, and I don't know how much they actually fixed the offensive line issues they had. So then you have Christian Watson, which as your number 2, somebody is either going to be Christian Watson or Odell. I don't know if Odell is going to stay healthy, and as far as Christian Watson goes, I think he actually is a really good receiver from what I've seen. I think he will still be able to do decent numbers. I just look at it as this: between your number 2 and your number 3, your number 2 receiver and your flex, I don't think there's going to be very much difference. I think your number 2 receiver is going to perform as a flex, and that's why I have you ding there. But you have a situation to where the Christian Watson thing can really go either way. It really just depends on how much you believe in Love and and whether or not you think they're going to actually have throwing the ball downfield as part of the game plan, because that's where Christian Watson shines. So, but like I said, you hedged your bets with Moore and you hedged your bets with Mims. So I do like that. I think your bench might be one of the best benches in the league. So that's why I had Roll Tide at number 9 at first, and I had Roll Tide at number 8 at first, and you at 9, and that's why I switched you guys. So,
right.
So yes, I think we are somewhat on the same page, but I think there's just not that big of a gap between number 5 and number 8 in this league.
Yeah, the middle people, there's not much big gaps. Like, I ranked you where I ranked you, but like you're still. Like, I think everybody is pretty much around the same even grade when it comes to the even, like to the middle. So it is what it is. But another area where I didn't mention is that Philadelphia Eagles defense. I feel as though that is going to be a high turnover defense. I feel as though they're going to get a lot of sacks. They're going to get the turnovers, which is going to equal a lot of money in fantasy. Where in the area where you don't usually get a lot of money from. So that's another reason why I graded my team at 5.
Yeah, they have the potential to win you some games, which is good, especially coming from a defense. Yep.
All right. So next, this one we disagreed greatly on, and ironically, it's about yourself. You have yourself you have low self-esteem, it seems, because you have yourself at 11. I have you at 4. And Fantasy Pros had you at 1. So, Sean, it looks like you are the odd man out in how you figure this is going to go for yourself. I'm going to tell you right now the reason why you're at 4 and not higher is Terry McLaurin. That's not it for me. That ain't it. Like that's just not it for me. Given the nature of the injury or the vagueness of what they're giving out about the injury. We hear that it's possibly turf toe, but we also heard that he's practicing this week. But we all know that players with turf toe, they struggle through it throughout the season. They're just way less effective with it. Mm-hmm. And so, like, he may be able to practice and he may be able to play, but how effective will he be? And if it does actually turn out to be turf toe, at this position, I'm not a big fan. You know what I'm saying? I'm just not. So it is what it is. I think one area where we greatly disagree is how you feel about James Cook, man. I feel I personally feel as though James Cook is a better runner than Devin Singletary, and I think that the Bills realize that, and I think they also going to utilize James Cook a lot more. I do not think that Josh Allen will be checking down to James Cook because Josh Allen is not that type of quarterback. I don't think you're going to get a lot of that from him. But I do think that they will be forcing James Cook a little bit more just to keep teams honest. Like last year, they weren't able to keep teams honest because everybody knew you ain't giving the ball to no fucking running back over there. Like, you know what I mean? They weren't able to keep teams honest in the past, and I think they're going to look to do that more this year with James Cook. And Eli Mitchell, I like that a little bit because Christian McCaffrey is often hurt. But on the flip side of that, Eli is often hurt. So when Christian get hurt, you might have 2 to 3 games of Eli before he gets hurt. But at least in those 2 to 3 games, you can count on it being at least 15 points. So it is what it is. Go ahead and explain why you have yourself so low.
Okay, so obviously I like the tandem of Jefferson and Higgins as the two guys. I like Mike Williams and the combination of Mike Williams and Terry McLaurin because, yes, I have those same concerns about Terry McLaurin, but that's also why I made sure that I took Mike Williams because I didn't like all those guys in the middle. Maybe I could have went after Christian Watson, but Hopkins wasn't it, Godwin wasn't it, Pittman wasn't it. Like a lot of these guys, weren't it for me. Maybe I could have taken Christian Kirk, but I knew that I could wait till later to pick up Mike Williams and or somebody of that caliber because that tier, the guys that were getting picked in the previous 2 rounds, I didn't want no parts of. So I figured I could get me a wide receiver. So that to me saves me from the Terry McLaurin situation.
Let me interject very quickly here, and we got to keep it moving. Why Terry McLaurin and not Jahan Dotson? Because Dotson was available at your pick.
Me personally, I just like the big playability of Terry McLaurin. I like the fact that if he's not getting a lot of targets, he can still get you a 3 catches, 100-yard, 1 touchdown game. He doesn't need the volume to give you the points, and that's why I like Terry McLaurin. Now, but that also leaves you in a feast or famine situation sometimes. So, but if we're going to be airing it out, then I like Terry McLaurin over Jahan Dotson. Jahan Dotson to me is a better red zone target though. But either way, point is where I'm down on myself is the Walker situation. I don't know if there's a potential for him to end up in a timeshare with Charbonnet, and I don't have Charbonnet on my roster. AJ Dillon is the number 2 to Aaron Jones. So Aaron Jones is not somebody who gets hurt often. So that's the situation with that. Leaving James Cook to be my number 2 running back. And James Cook, I look at it this way, although he can catch, they have Zach Moss on that team specifically to just go in there and catch. They have Nyheim Hines there specifically so he could go out there and catch. So if you're telling me that he's just getting the carries, I am 100% dependent on the coaching staff.
Well, Hines is hurt, so
yeah, I understand that, but Zach Moss is healthy and he's there. I'm saying is Nyheim Hines will eventually be healthy, and then you'll have 2 guys.
No, he's done for the season. He had that.
Done for the season? Okay,
he had that water boat injury. He's also currently. The Bills are talking about asking for their money back because he did it
but the
outside
point
of
is,
football.
I'm relying upon the coaching staff to make the decision to actually hand the ball off, and they haven't inspired confidence in that when it comes to me with that situation. So
fair enough.
Maybe it was Devin Singletary, maybe it wasn't. I don't know, but we'll find out this season. I just don't feel confident with having James Cook as my number 2 running back.
Fair enough. That's fine. But I do think you're awfully down on yourself to have yourself as low as 11. That's crazy to me. Next up, we have Big Trust, who I have at 3 and you have at 7. I'm going to go ahead and call this hate on your part that you have him at 7. It's crazy to me that you have him at 7, largely because regardless of what's going on with the Bills and how Stefon Diggs feels about the Bills and shit not being right, the fact of the matter is Stefon Diggs, not only is he a target monster, but big playability when it comes to Stefon Diggs and being in the Bills situation. Next, you have Patrick Mahomes. Anytime that you have Patrick Mahomes on your roster, you could go ahead and circle yourself in for 30 plus points. That's just it. Like, I don't think there's going to be many games where he has less than 30. Like, so that's a big deal for me when it comes to adding this up. When you have a target monster and big play monster in Stefon Diggs, along with the best fantasy football quarterback to exist, it seems. I have to grade that accordingly, and I feel as though you graded that way too low. Beyond that, I just feel as though his team is adequate beyond those two. I think they're good enough. Harris could be something better than what he was last year because he had an uptick in his production on the back end of the season, and we do know he was dealing with some injuries in the front end of the season. So maybe that uptick continues, hopefully so. And if it does, then he has a dog at running back, somebody that we know this is what Pittsburgh Steelers do. They hand the ball off and they run. You know what I mean? What was it? 3 downs in a cloud of dust or something like that. However that's saying though. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's how the Pittsburgh Steelers roll. So if he's on point, that's what's going to happen. So that's why I have him at 3. Go ahead.
Okay, so Patrick Mahomes, Stefon Diggs, not the issue here for me. His wide receiving core after Stefon Diggs is an issue for me. Jackson Smith-Njigba is number 3 in that pecking order for that team. Drake London is the number 1 guy, but like I said, I don't have faith in the offensive line or the quarterback. I just don't see the level of production that I would want from my flex position coming out of Drake London. Deebo Samuel, he is, let's not forget, he finished as the number 2 wide receiver on the Niners last year. And he doesn't seem to be getting the same amount of targets with Purdy as he was getting with Jimmy G. To me, Deebo Samuel is more of a flex guy than he is your number 2 receiver. So the drop-off is real for me there when it comes to number 2 and number 3 guys for his receivers. And then you look at Najee Harris, and I say to myself, yes, he's going to get the touches. Yes, he's going to get the carries. Is he going to average more than 4 yards per carry? Because last year it was really bad. I understand they fixed the offensive line, or they went out and tried to address the offensive line. I just don't know if I have I don't know if I have faith in Kenny Pickett to be able to pick up first downs when you need him to keep drives alive. And one thing you do know is if you can't get first downs, then you can't get 25 carries. You can't get 30 carries. You can't do that if you don't get first downs. But I do believe their defense is good enough to where they don't have to worry about being down 2 scores or to where they end up in a passing situation. So I do like Najee Harris as far as the volume and stuff that he's going to get. I just don't know about the production. And then for me, Jonathan Taylor's situation may work out, may not.
I don't think it's going to work out at all. But that's why
I'm saying it's a big question mark, which leaves so to me it just leaves you with question mark, not question marks, but it leaves you with a question mark at your flex position. Not very high confidence in your number 1 running back. And then essentially to me, the number 1 running back on this team is DeAndre Swift. And he's going to be in quite a bit of a committee. So that's the reason why. I just think these guys have low floors, and then I also believe they have low ceilings, and that's my issue with this squad, and that's why I have them ranked so low. Volume, all of these guys seem to be okay. They should be okay. But I just feel like it's a low floor, low ceiling situation.
All right, fair enough. I mean, it is what it is. I'm going to still call it hate because you and you and Big Trust have a history, and I feel as though that also weighed into your decision. You know what
It
I'm
ain't
saying?
no hate. I have myself ranked lower than him by 4 spots. So
Okay. I think
it is.
I think that was the strategy. I'm gonna rank myself low so I can shit on Tobias and say this ain't no hate.
Yeah, that's what you think was going on? That's
Yeah,
wild.
I think that's what was happening.
I'm gonna hate on myself just so I can clear myself to hate on him. Like that's a different level of hate, Mark. I don't think.
Hey
I'm
man, I call it like I see it, baby.
No, that's crazy.
Next up, we have Seti Fresh, Team Condomless Poppy. Look, we're in number 2. It's not much to explain when you're looking at a good roster. You're looking at a good roster. Bijan Robinson, he should get all the runs. He should get it all. You know what I mean? They drafted him in the first round, number 9 in the first round. So you don't draft somebody at 9 and then put them in the committee. That's crazy talk. Like that's absolutely crazy talk.
Yeah.
So look for Bijan Robinson to do his thing, and then St. Brown, don't really need to talk about that. That's an excellent pick. Calvin Ridley, everybody high on that. So that should be an excellent pick. Beyond that, if Hockenson does not have the same production he had last year with the addition of Addison to the Minnesota Vikings, that's fine. As long as Darren Waller's healthy, the Giants definitely have plans for Darren Waller because they don't have receivers truly outside of Darren Waller. Deshaun Watson, year 2 coming back, I think the rest should be knocked off. And even still, if Hockenson ain't the man, guess who's on his roster? Addison. So somebody else has to get the targets there in Minnesota besides Justin Jefferson. And he has both those guys that have the potential to get those targets. So I can't knock him for Hockenson when he also has Addison. It just is what it is. And that's where I'm going to leave it. Oh, also managed to handcuff with Tyler Algiers. So he doesn't have to worry about anything with Bijan because Tyler Algiers is an adequate running back. He's more than adequate. I did not understand the Bijan pick because Tyler Algiers is a good running back. So it is what it is. I like this team. That's why I have them at 2.
This is just a well-constructed team, Mark. Well thought out during the draft. Getting handcuffs, getting Hockenson and Addison. I'll be honest with you. You said why? Why would they go and get Bijan when they have Algier? When you're talking about running backs with catching abilities, he is the best prospect since Saquon Barkley.
I mean, that's fantastic. I get that, but why do you have him at 4 and not higher?
Oh, because I just believe he's going to be doing a shuffle here, Mark. But I also believe, like I said, I don't know what his touchdown upside is, what Bijan Robinson's touchdown upside is going to be, because I just don't have faith in the offense. I don't have faith in the offensive line. But outside of that's really where it comes down to why I have him at 4. But then also I believe he's going to be doing a shuffle. There's going to be weeks where he's starting 2 tight ends. There's going to be weeks where maybe he starts Addison instead of Hockenson and he made the wrong decision. But he's the 2 tight end situation, especially when they're that level, that caliber of tight end. I just think that me personally, I don't know how I feel about having a tight end as your regular flex starter, just because you know how tight ends go. Even if they're great, they're going to give you those weeks where you get 5 points from them. The floor is low with tight ends. It's lower with tight ends than it is with wide receivers. But this is a situation to where it might work out. But like I said, even with the 2 tight ends, I still have them at 4, so I still respect it.
I feel you. All right. I mean, it is what it is. I have them much higher, but it is what it is. Next up.
Yeah, I'm not even mad that you got them at 2. Like, I'll be honest with you.
Yeah. Next up, we have Rodney Richburg, who I have at number 1 and you have at number 2. In fact, as of this moment, right now, live on air, I'm just going to switch. Rodney Richburg is at 2. Condomless Poppy is at 1. Like, I'm looking it back over. Condomless Poppy deserves to be at 1 for me. That's just it. Rodney Richburg. I'm moving into two, baby. I love Jamar Chase. I like Josh Jacobs, but we already know that when you try to get it, when you chase the running back when you chase the lead running back from the year before, they're not that guy the next year. 9 times out of 10,
especially after a contract. Let's keep it real. Like he got his contract, Mark.
Yeah, well, he got it for this year, but
my point is, you know, when they run a little bit harder when they fighting for that first bag.
Yeah, so you got Josh Jacobs, and also he missed a lot of camp. That tends to weigh heavily on running backs as well. So that's why I named you here. But Lamar Jackson is going to be right up there with Jalen Hurts. Like, he's going to be chasing the best QB of fantasy this year, I believe, as long as he stays healthy. Like, he will be in the chase of best fantasy quarterback. So, like, I like those three picks. DK Metcalf, you know what I mean? Like, he demands the targets, not because the QB in this situation favors him. He demands the targets because of what he's able to do with the ball, like the way his ability to go up to get the 50-50 balls, his ability to stretch the offense and just get open. Like, so DK Metcalf, like, I like his 2 wide receiver situation. Not a massive fan of the third, but it's so low down here, and the fact that he has 3 running backs. Well, I like all his running backs. It's just there's questions at Breece Hall with now Dalvin Cook being there, and there's but there is no questions about Pacheco's what his role is, and there's no questions about Rashad White's role. And then when it comes straight down to it, I love his tight ends. His tight ends, it wasn't a lot of fanfare behind these tight ends, but the fact of the matter is, we already know what Schultz is capable of back when he was in Dallas, and now he is in Houston with Nico Collins. Essentially, he's their number 2. He's their number 2 in targets. He may even end up being their number 1, given the fact that they have a rookie QB. And then you got Greg Dulcich, like Sean Payton. Sean Payton is the head coach. That should be enough said. We already see what Sean Payton has done with athletic tight ends in the past. So this is why I have him so high. Now explain to me why you had him at 6.
Okay, I just thought the Breece Hall situation was going to be a little bit of it is going to be more of an issue. I saw him as a number 2 running back on this team. Honestly, now that I'm looking at it, Isaiah Pacheco might be his number 2 in all honesty. But the game plan sometimes doesn't involve the Chiefs running the ball very, very often, and that's the running back situation that's the reason why I kind of look at this a little bit differently. I'll be honest with you, I think I might have been a little bit lower on DK Metcalf, but I shouldn't be, man. DK Metcalf has improved his route running with the short and intermediate routes, so much so that he's been getting those targets in the short and intermediate game, which is why he is able to sustain his numbers last year, even without having a guy that is known for throwing down the field. So I think I may be mistaken here with having him at 6, but once again, let's talk about the knocks. I don't like Michael Thomas at all. And then, so I look at his flex situation and I say, who's going to be in his flex? And that, if I have to ask that question, to me, you're not a top 5 team in the fantasy league. So, and if you have a running back in your flex, then I need that running back to be a 12 to 15 point a game guy, and I don't think
he might go 2 tight ends.
He might, and Mark, I'll be honest with you, that might be the best option for him at some point in the season, because I love Dulcich. I love what he did last year. despite how horrible the offense was last year. And I agree with you. I think that's you're talking about value for picks. Those 2 tight ends that he drafted, I mean, you don't get better value. You don't get better value than that for where he picked those guys, because I honestly think that's going to be the difference between whether or not, Mark, he is at the 6th spot like I have him, or at the number 1 spot like you have him. Because
I changed live on Aaron.
Excuse me,
He's
2.
He's 2 now. He's 2.
But either way, I look at it and I say Dalton Schultz is a guy who could finish as the top 3 tight end in the season. To me, that's what I think of Dalton Schultz's situation over there. So I think you are right and spot on about the Dalton Schultz and Dolch's situations. So
all right. So very quickly to recap, fellas. I now, with the adjusted rankings, I now have Condomless Poppy at number 1, 750 Deadouts at number 2. So I have Condomless Poppy at number 1. You had him at 4. 750 Deadouts at 2. You had him at 6. Big Trust at 3. You had him at 7. 49ers at 4. You have him at 11. Hurt Locker at 5. You have him at 8. Roll Tide at 6. You had him at 9. And then Rickshaw at 7. And you had him as high as 2. Peak of the Mountain at 8. You have them as high as 1. Excuse me. And then Fornum Grave, I have them at 9. You had them at 10. Botch Lombardi, you had them as high as 3. I have them as low as 10. As 10. And Straw Gang at 11. You had them at 5. And the one area where we completely agreed was Blessed by the Fantasy Gods. All right. So Blessed by the Fantasy Gods, according to Fantasy Pros and ourselves, you're bottom tier, baby. And that's unfortunate.
And here's where I wanted to make my comment real quick, Mark. I'll make it here. There's a reason why her team name is Blessed by the Fantasy Gods, because somehow, some way, clear consensus, number 12 team in this league, Mark. And I'm just looking for her to somehow finish it like the 6th spot magically. I don't know what's going to happen during the course of the season, but I'm telling you right now, if I had to bet $100 on it, I would say that she does not finish in the last place.
All right. Very quickly, before we get out of here, I'm going to switch back. I'm going to bring up very quickly. I'm going to rank the what the fuck moves of the draft. At number 1, Cooper Kupp. What the fuck? What was going on there? No need to explain. We already talked about it before. That is the number 1 what the fuck move for me. At number 2, you have the San Francisco 49ers at 6. That was crazy to me. In the 6th round, you taking a defense. Although I have your team ranked high, 49ers defense in the 6th round is wild as fuck. That is weird. And then at at what truly should be number 2 is taking a kicker in the 7th. And so, Rodney, you go to 3rd. Peak, you at 2 with the what the fuck move of Josh Tucker at 7. Those are my top 3 what the fuck moves of the draft. Sean,
I have a rank exactly the same as you, Mark. And the only reason why Cooper Kupp going is number 1 over the Justin Tucker move is because the Justin Tucker move is not going to have the level of consequence that the Cooper Kupp decision is going to have, Mark.
No, it's not. And hey guys, that's our ending. That's the ending of the show. That's how we feel about your teams. That's the draft rankings, and that is where Fantasy Pros had you. They have the biggest split in anywhere is by 2 games. They have 2 teams going 8-6, and they have 2 teams going 6-8. Everybody else in the middle, they have them at 7-7. So this just lets you know that they have us locked up and fighting our way in. So you better be making the right moves throughout the season with the waiver wires, and you better be starting the right people, because it looks like the playoff push is going to come down to points. It's going to come down to who has the most points to get into the playoffs. So
Yeah,
everybody's going to, because essentially everybody's going to have the same record.
yeah. And if you remember last year, we had like 6 people fighting for like the last spot in the last 2 weeks. So I don't think they're far off with that. And to add to the waiver wire situation, you better get your bye weeks correct. You better get those correct, because that's going to be a big deciding factor.
All right. So with that said, thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in, guys. It's going to be a good season, and it looks like it's going to start tonight. So see you later, man. And I hope to destroy you all. Truly.